Dear students, today I am going to teach you about sources of history. Dear students, you know that history is based on sources. Basically, there are two type of sources. First one, archaeological sources. What do you mean by this one? With reference to the archaeological sources, monuments buildings, I think my words are very much familiar about monuments building like Taj Mahal, like Rajarajaswar temple, and other many temples are there. Next one, pottery, seals, coins, paintings on stone or walls, artifacts. Artifacts means work of art, means human had made has made many art, that is also archaeological sources. Copper plates. What was the copper plates? I would like to mention, this is very renowned primary source of southern Indian history. Basically, villages were given to any person as a grant by king, or sometimes royal order also issued on copper plates. Next archaeological source, that is inscription. I think my words are very much familiar about inscription like Allahabad pillar inscription. We can say this one, Prayag Prasasti. One more inscription, Junagadh rocks inscription, and other many archaeological sources are there. Pots and pens will be also known as archaeological sources. One more point, dear children, dear student, I would like to mention about Archaeological Survey of India. I have taught Archaeological Survey of India was set up in 1861, and Cunningham is known as father of Indian archaeology. Basically, in Indian archaeology working on, or Indian archaeology, Archaeological Survey of India, I think my words are very much familiar. Archaeological Survey of India is is responsible for protection and preservation of archaeological sources. Many excavation taken place, all done by Archaeological Survey of India. I think my words are familiar about Harappa and Mohenjo-daro also. By Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, excavation taken place when John Marshall was the Director General of Archaeological Survey of India. So these are, children, archaeological sources. Next one, next sources are known as literary sources. Dear student, you know this one. Earlier, when paper was not available, so manuscript had been written on palm leaves. Means on leaves it has been written. I think my words are familiar about three pitakas, and three pitakas all kept in basket. So three baskets title had been used. I think my words are familiar about this one. So these are important sources, literary sources I'm talking. Literary sources can be divided basically in two part. First one, religious sources, literary sources, and secular sources. First of all, I would like to mention some religious sources like Ramayana and Mahabharata Both are religious books. We can mention Bible also, Quran, Hadith also. These are religious sources. With reference to the secular sources, many books are there, many creations are there like Indica, Arthashastra. Indica was written by Megasthenes. Arthashastra was written by Kautilya Vishnugupta, whatever. I think my words are familiar. Very popular name is there. And other many books are there. Secular books like Malikagnimitram, Kalidas written, and many others, many other creations are there. After that, I am going to start the which one is primary source and which one is secondary source. First one, I am going to explain what is primary sources. What is primary source? First one, primary sources are first hand information, or we can say eyewitness account. Very common example I would like to mention about primary sources. One very common example I would like to mention here, Amir Khusro, the court poet of Alauddin Khilji. And Alauddin Khilji attacked on southern India. And I think Amir Khusro was the commander in chief of, Amir Khusro was the court poet of Alauddin Khilji. And Amir Khusro written Khazain ul Futuh. It is a very, very reliable information. And Khazain ul Futuh is eyewitness account of the victory of Alauddin Khilji. So that's why it is known as primary source. One more very common example I would like to mention here about Babar Nama. My words are knowing Babar Nama written by Babar. I think my words are very much familiar about who founded Mughal Empire in India. So credit goes to Babar. And Babar had keen interest in writing also. And Babar had written Tuju Ke Babri. It is autobiography of Babar. And an autobiography will be also known as primary source. Means what Babar had seen. He has given information. So this is very reliable source of respective era. One more point I would like to mention, that primary sources are known as raw material of history, and it is also known as original documents. Original documents means when any person has seen and after that he explained, so that is a primary source. One dear student, one very current example I would like to mention. Suppose yesterday night we have seen match between India and Pakistan, and by telephone you are going to communicate me. Okay, so that live telecast you have seen, so you are eyewitness account, your information will be primary source. Suppose by telephone one you have given information about a respective match, and now I am going to interpret the match. So when interpretation will be done by me, that will be secondary source. So I think my words are very much familiar about primary sources. One more very important information I would like to mention here. Basically, all archaeological sources are known as primary sources. Again, I am going to repeat, all archaeological sources, maximum all archaeological sources are known as primary sources. Now, next point is there, what is secondary sources? Dear student, what is secondary source? Secondary source are based on primary sources. What do you mean by this one? Means suppose I have written Babar Nama, I have read Babar Nama, and after that I have started interpretation of Babar Nama. So that will be second, which will be my creation will be there, that will be secondary source. Some example I would like to mention. Example of secondary sources: academic books are secondary sources, journals are secondary sources, artifacts, okay, are also secondary sources, and reviews, essay, and textbooks are secondary sources. One more very important point is there I would like to mention. Primary sources are very much important, or secondary sources are very much important. Dear student, I would like to mention here, both sources are very much important. Both sources are very much important. Primary sources are very much important for historians, but secondary sources are very much important for each and every person, including historians also. Suppose your Mahen sir went to Allahabad pillar inscription. So definitely, which language it was written, I am unable to understand. Okay, so it will be so meaningless for me. I have seen primary source, but I can't understand. Okay, but if any historian went there and that historian explained that information in English, then we can easily understand what they have written. Okay, so you should understand this one: primary sources and secondary sources. Both sources are very important. Okay, next day, beta, I'll come with another video. Thank you.